Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Brunton Bugle, the best place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Mike Booth.
On today's episode, we'll take a look back at the second goalless draw in 3 league games as the Blues and the Valiants drew blank at Vale Park in midweek, while looking ahead to this weekend's home tie against a rejuvenated Leyton Orient side. 2 games in a row, Mike, that have absolutely nailed the intro bit. I'm just about getting it right in terms of the timing now, so I know how many words that need to be in there. But yeah, how's it going, mate?
Yeah, good. You know, we're unbeaten, aren't we? So, you know, not a great deal to complain about.
No, just maybe a few goals would be nice, but you know, just to pad things out a bit. But there you go. We'll get straight into it because we're both a bit strapped for time today in terms of recording. We've got some extra bits to throw in terms of audio to sort of pad out the episode, so to speak. The competition in terms of that, I haven't had time to actually double check that everybody that is potentially got the right answer is in the thing, so I'm going to do that over the weekend, and then next week's episode we will definitely be picking a winner. What we'll do is we'll pick it beforehand basically and drop it into the episode, so those people probably have their socks by the time Hartlepool away comes around. So there you go. A couple of quick bits of news, Mike. First up, obviously the arrival of Brad Young on loan from Aston Villa. He's a lad who did really well for them, won the FA Youth Cup with them last season, didn't he? And you think he appeared against Liverpool in the FA Cup proper as well in that very young squad. And didn't he make a bit of a prat out of Shaqiri at one point with a little pirouette on the ball? I think that's on.
Yeah, he did, but I think because that was in his own penalty area as well. I think if he did that at Brunton Park, I think the paddock would just be absolutely furious.
Yeah. What were you doing, you prat? Put it up, get it up the pitch. Yeah, no, it seems an interesting signing, season-long loan. You know, he's a couple of not maybe sketchy things with his passion we say, but obviously he was involved in a stabbing, wasn't he, about a year or so ago. Amazingly, was back playing within months of that. But yeah, well, I'll talk about how he did against Port Vale shortly. But yeah, good to see a young sort of hungry striker coming in potentially.
Yeah, although to be honest, I don't believe in season-long loans anymore because I think you and I both know if he hits the ground running and scores a load of goals, he'll be going back in January and probably going somewhere else. I
think it's more of a risk when you do it to a championship club because I think they want them to be getting ready for their team as soon as possible. Whereas I think with Premier League, if he's doing really well, they might be a bit more cautious, a bit more happy to sort of let him stay and score goals possibly. I might be wrong on that.
They might want to loan him out to a League One team or something,
Maybe.
You know, if he proves himself at this level. But yeah, you know, on paper he looks a good player, but so did Elias Sorensen, so we'll have to wait and see.
I think, as I said online this week, Sorensen had already blotted his copybook, hadn't he, with his loan at Blackpool, where there was big questions about his attitude. Whereas with this lad, when you watch him actually playing in the clips from the Youth Cup games, he's a really hard worker and he does look like a player who wants to come and impress. So
yeah, definitely.
Good luck to him. And obviously on the flip side, as a result of that, young Sam Fishburn has gone out on loan to Lancaster City for the till January, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Smart move for him. I think it's one level above Workington, isn't it? I think it's Northern League Premier, so just one league below the National League North. Yeah, I mean, you've got a contact at Lancaster, haven't you? Some of coaches there, and was quite impressed with his debut against Witton Albion. Yeah,
to quote him, he said he was incredible and he could have had a hat-trick against, obviously, McNulty, who, you know, we all know what he's about.
He's a big lad, isn't he? He's like the size of a tank. Yeah. He's huge.
Yeah, so, and said that, you know, he wasn't sort of been pushed off the ball easily like you'd expect a 17-year-old to in that sort of scenario. So yeah, but as well, I mean, Lancaster, their fixture list sort of going up to November-ish is just Saturday, Tuesday. So he's going to be having a lot of game time, and it's something, to be honest, that we should maybe do a little bit more of because. You know, it's only just down on the train or just down the M6. So for young lads who don't drive, you know, they can get the train down. And obviously, like you say, they're at higher level than Workington. So
yeah, I think it's smart. I think if Workington get themselves back to that level, it'll work a lot better for us, really, won't it? Because we'll be able to send players there as well. But it's a good move. I think maybe the standard of play we've had previously isn't quite as good as Fishburne, who, let's not forget, he's still a second-year YTS, technically, age-wise. So to go there and do so well in his debut really does show the lad's got a bit of talent about him. So well done to young Sam, getting a couple of goals on his debut and a 3-2 win for Lancaster. A little bit more on that game later, because there's a one in the X-Files linked to that match as well. So there you go. Okay, well, let's get straight into it then, Mike. It's a match review first. Now, what I've done here is I took my dictaphone with me to the game the other night and just sort of recorded a few crowd noises and had a little chat with a good mate of ours, Gregg Bulman, who was at the game. I was sat next to him, just talked about how we think the game went at half-time and at full-time as well. And you can probably hear him starting off a few chants as well through the audio. But basically it's about 14 minutes long, so if you're not interested in listening to this bit, skip to around about the 20-minute mark in today's episode and you'll be back in basically with us talking about the match as well. But it's basically a lot of crowd noises of the major incidents, few chants and things like that, and Gregg's assessment at half-time and Gregg's assessment at full-time as well. So give that a listen now.
Number 23, Lewis Pal, and number 30, Brad Young. For the Valiant on tonight's substitutes, number 9, James Wilson, 15, Ryan Johnson, 16, Aaron Martin, Eden Stone, 27, Lewis Cass, and say hello please to new boy number 22, Dennis Politic.
The horseshoe bar, that's what we got.
This is how we start tonight then. Number 1, Lucas Coleman. Number 3, Dan Jones. 4, Brad Walker. 5, Ian Legg. 6, Nathan Smith. 7, Dave Worrell. 8, Ben Garrity. 11, Mal Benning. 13, James Proctor. 21, Devante Rodney. And 23, Captain Tom Batt. Let's see the Valiants.
That would be fine anyway. Come on, Chuck. Well in. Come on, Chuck. Come on! Come on! Come on! Oh, fuck's sake, man. That's shite. Got to impressive from there. Why is he taking another touch and fucking cross it to whoever's in the middle? That was Riley, I think. He didn't feel about that for Riley, didn't he? First he got to get in the middle. Come on, ref. Out. Go on then, Greg, what did you make of that first half?
First half, I thought we started quite well, grew into the game a little bit, we looked solid at the back. They are a big physical side, they look good around the edge of the box, they look a little bit threatening, but half time, you would have took that away from home. We've gave ourselves a nice little platform to build on, we've got the attacking options on the bench looks really, really strong tonight, so hopefully, fingers crossed, we can start getting these lads on and see what happens. We haven't created a lot. We don't look like we're going to score. The shots are just half chances from outside the box, but they've given themselves a platform to build on.
Alessandro wants too much time in the box every time he gets it.
He just keeps
got some lovely touches, but he just doesn't get his shot away.
Yeah, just keeps trying to cut in, and there's no real runners. And we're putting these balls in the box, and like you say, they're too big for us. They're winning every single header. We need to get it on the ground and run at them and frighten them, but we'll see what happens second half.
Defensively, we look pretty sound. I think McDonald's been excellent. The two fullbacks have covered well.
I would say there was a couple of little chances towards the end of the first half where Whelan got caught in no man's land a little bit, and then Armour had to come in and bail him out. But other than that, it's probably they look really, really assured. You wouldn't think Aaron Hayden had gone.
No, definitely not. And hopefully get to see Zach Clough second half.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But hopefully he's fit and see the new lad as well. So yeah, we've got. It's nice, like I say, you've got him, you've got Mampala, we've got a lot of attacking options. Louis Bell, so yeah, should be good.
substitution. In midfield number 9, Lewis Alessandra. Replaced by number 10, Zach Clark.
No, I'm going to let it go. He's going about 5 yards wide.
Port Vale substitution. Leaving the field for the Vale number 11, Mal Benning. And number 19, David Am.
Well done, Connor. Come on, man! Lifting in the ball all the time now.
Sitting out there.
Come on, man. Keep gifting the fucking ball every time. Callum Guy out for me. Watch him bring Fina and go fucking happy.
Also tonight, well done to the travelling supporters of Carlisle United. 284 fans at Vale Park.
Come on! Come on! Happy with that point, Greg?
It's okay. I think it was two teams that neither really looked like they were going to score in the end. Fair results. Just like to see a goal.
It's worrying, isn't it? So far, four games in, 2 goals against Swindon, who are poor.
Yeah.
We just don't look like scoring, do we?
They didn't create anything very much tonight. It was just, as soon as they got to the final third, it was lost. Half chances after half chances, but not a bad point on the road, I suppose. Not a bad start to the season. 5 points out of 9. It's okay. Solid.
Last 20 minutes were pretty hard to watch, weren't they?
Yeah. It was just hoof up, long ball, both teams. Their physicality, they were getting outrun at times and out-muscled, but it's a fair result. I can't complain too much.
A nice Clough on the pitch too.
Yeah, it looks like he's got something about him. He's a little bit lightweight, goes down quite easy, but hopefully he'll start banging the goals in.
Starting Saturday.
Yeah.
So there you have it, all the audio, the sound, the feel of the game the other night. 280 odd Carlisle fans there, made a hell of a racket to be fair. But again, denied goals. I've been to three games this season out of the 4, and I've managed to miss both the goals by being to the games where no one's scored. Mike, it's a sod's law, that, isn't it? But yeah, I think it's fair to say a decent point against a team I think we all fancy to do okay this season. But yeah, it's. The thing that stands out for me is just the defence impressing again. So good.
I mean, for me, sort of at this stage of the season, building up a bit of an unbeaten run and a few clean sheets, it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because, like, 7 games in, if you're playing a team that's sort of 20th and you're up in the playoff places and you're not conceding many goals, that team in 20th is going to sort of be sitting back a lot more against you, and then, you know, in turn maybe not scoring themselves. So we're just sort of building that, and, you know, as to whip out the old cliche, if you draw your away games and you can win your home games, even though we obviously beat Swindon away and drew the home game, but you know what I mean. If we can do that, then, you know, we're gonna be right up there.
Obviously, we'll touch on the Leyton Orient game later. But if you win that game at the weekend, that's your average 2 points from your first first 4 games.
Yeah,
dream world, isn't it? Really, you're more than happy with that. But yeah, no, you're right about having a strong defence is just probably the most important thing, I think, for a team at the start of the season. Because I mean, if you start the season where you're scoring goals, but you're also conceding them, getting into the habit of not conceding goals is so much harder than actually getting into the habit of scoring goals. Because you know, if you're not conceding them, you're comfortable. Like, okay, we're not going to lose the games, and you get more confident. You can push forward a bit more and attack a bit more. So, fair play. I've no major issue at all with the fact that we've got a strong defensive foundation.
And likewise as well, if you're struggling to concede goals, teams are having to bomb more players forward to try and score against you, which in turn opens up gaps at the back for us to hopefully beat.
Yeah, we've always been quite strong in the counter-attack over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
Like I said, defence impressed again. Whelan and McDonald are forming a really, really good partnership at the back. I kind of feel for Morgan Feeney there because he did so well against Sheffield United, but I don't fancy his chances of getting into the starting 11 for a while unless there's an injury in there, because you would not break up that partnership. I genuinely think on McDonald, it's time he got a bit more praise from our fans and a bit more credit.
I think he was one hell of a summer signing this summer. Who did we sign him from? He's one hell of a player. Yeah,
I mean, I don't think he was that bad last season. Look, I think he had his dodgy moments. I'm not going to deny that, but I think Beach has commented, and a lot of the fans commented, he wasn't out of shape last season in any shape or form, but he looks even leaner. He looks even like he's really worked on it. And we all know he hasn't got any pace, but he's a League 2 centre-back. League 2 centre-backs don't have pace generally. If they do, they're usually young ones who end up progressing and going off elsewhere. And what he does when a player looks like he's going to beat for pace, he's very good actually at then moving into space to deny him a potential opportunity to attack. So essentially, he lets him run off to the wing, and he'll sort of cut across and cut the space off. That's the thing that McDonald is really good at doing, to be fair. But I like I said, I think he needs to get more credit from our fans, because the first 4 games he's probably been close to man of the match first 3 games at least that he's played in. He's been close to man of the match in all 3 of them. He's winning all his headers, and
and to be fair, I think he is starting to get some of that praise that he deserves as well.
Yeah, and I think everyone's rightly praising Whelan for how well he's done playing at centre back for not the first time in his career, but the first time he's probably regularly played a run of games there. But I think McDonald's playing a big part in that. He's almost not guiding him through games, but he's there to give a bit of advice and stuff like that. Full credit to the 2 fullbacks as well on Tuesday night. I mean, Jack Armour, the tackle he made, the last ditch one, was incredible. Admittedly, it's probably come from him making a mistake in the first place and letting Worrell in and whatnot, but to get back and not just win the tackle, but win the goal kick as well, incredible. And that should have been a goal. I can imagine unexpected goals, that would have been up close to a 1, I think, in terms of the stats, but brilliant tackle. And Tanner just, he looked our best goal scoring threat. He had 2 free shots one the keeper palmed over the bar, and then 2 shots from distance that went just wide of the post. So, he started the season really strongly, and because end of last season he looked a bit off the pace in some games. He didn't look like he'd quite recovered from his injury and stuff like that. But fair play to the lad. Got to mention Joe Riley again. That's probably the 4th game in a row he's strong contender for man of the match.
Yeah,
he's really stepped up after being left out of that first game, and the way he performed really impressed me, because he was the one driving us forward. He was the one who was getting the ball and looking for the forward pass all the time, because Callum Guy's been a bit nullified this season, hasn't he? And I think that the height we've lost in the team, from losing the likes of Zanzala, Coyote and Hayden, and their aerial presence, all 3 of them, that's really costing us a bit at the moment, isn't it? I mean, that's one of the reasons why we're maybe struggling to score goals.
Yeah, there's been a few games and a few sort of chances and a few balls that have gone across the box that have sort of had you think, if that was Zanzala, would that have been a goal, maybe? You know, but, I mean, the sort of lack of goals, I wouldn't say it's a total mystery, but, I mean, you look at the attacking quality of our fullbacks, you can't dispute that for 1 second, can you? Yeah. You can't dispute the ability of Guy, Riley, Mellish in midfield. At all, you know. And, you know, having someone like Alessandro in the team, he's going to create chances for someone to score. You know, where are the goals, sort of, like, what's going on?
The front three is the bit that's concerning me a bit at the moment. I think, as individuals, all three of them are good players. I have no issue there at all. I think they're all three good footballers. I don't think it works as a three, and I think we've seen that over the first 3 games. I think Clough being injured obviously is one of the reasons why that's happened, and you know, Mampala's probably not quite ready. Toure was left out of the squad for this game, so Young could come in. I feel like he needs to change it up a little bit. I think for the game of the weekend, definitely I wouldn't go with that three again. I mean, Dickinson's had a decent start to the season, but he's often getting the ball out to the wing and he's whipping a cross in, and there's no one in there to head it.
Yeah.
And that's not his fault. But then you ask the question, well, do you maybe take him out of the team and put maybe almost like an inverted winger there, someone like a Toure who's going to maybe be a bit more direct and go towards goal, but who's going to be there in the middle? Then you basically tell Abraham, just stay there. And I find Alessandro, I really like Alessandro as a player. We've raved about him last season and how, you know, when he played well, we played well. But he does have a habit of slowing the game down, and he gets the ball, and there was the number of times, you're probably hearing that audio clip from the game, where he just wasn't shooting. And there was one occasion where he had a really good chance to get a shot off, and he did a little turn again, and then he played a pass. I'm like, that's where you need a clinical striker, someone there.
Yeah.
If Zanzala's there, he has a go at goal there. 100% definitely has a go. So I wonder if you maybe take Alessandro out of the team just for a little bit and put someone in there who's going to be a bit more direct and just have a go when they can.
Yeah. But I mean, it's interesting how you incorporate Clough when he comes back, because obviously Alessandro's been playing on the left a bit. Like, do you? I mean, the Bolton fans that I work with say do not play Clough on the left, basically, which seemed to be something that Beach alluded to that you can do. But so you know, because obviously you can't drop Riley. You know, you like having Mellish in there because he just terrifies defences. So, you know, do you maybe play Clough as that sort of number 9 main striker, perhaps? I don't know,
because I think you'd almost be like a false 9 there, and then you've got the issue of that. If you do that, then basically what you need to tell Mellish, don't you worry too much about doing your defensive sort of midfield role work. You just get in the box. When Clough drops deep to get the ball as a false 9, you just get in the box because you're going to get on the end of stuff. You're going to win your headers and stuff like that. Because at the moment we are relying heavily on him and his physical presence, and McDonald from like long throws to flick stuff on. That's what we're massively relying on. So we need other players to sort of take a bit of the strain off them, basically. Just quickly touching on Port Vale, strong side, quite impressed with some of the stuff they did, but like us, absolutely no goal scoring threat. I mean, David Worrell was a nuisance down the right all evening, and he really, really looked strong. But the amount of times he was putting balls in the box, and there was no one there for them. And Jamie Proctor did not have a great game for them. It's one I looked at and I thought, if he was available to us in the summer, I wouldn't have signed him based on that. He just didn't impress me at all. Someone who did impress us was David Amu when he came on. And Port Vale fans seemed to like him as well. They had the old moo chance for him, as you'll hear from the audio just before. But I didn't realise he'd hit the post. We thought Norman had actually spilled his shot, but it was a shot that hit the post. And he looked at, as soon as he came on, Tanner actually had something to worry about. Because Tanner had, I think Devante Rodney got their man of the match. Yet Tanner had him in his back pocket for most of the game. It was bizarre. It was really bizarre, but there you go. But yeah, so like I said, it was good to see Clough come on. A bit quiet, as you'd expect, really, you know, coming back from an injury and coming up against a very physical, strong defence. He didn't really get into the game much. And nice to see Brad Young make his debut. And interestingly, he put one on Leon Legg literally about 5 minutes after coming on. And Leon Legg's a big lad, and he was quite happy to go in on the physical with him. So That's an encouraging sign for. I mean, he's only 5'9", 5'10", young. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen so many times with these under-23 strikers, haven't we, that they're just sort of not up for the physical fight of League Two football. But as long as he's up for that, then it's only a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that sums up the Port Vale game then, Mike. I think both agreed. Decent point. Would have been nice to maybe nick it, but unbeaten start and another clean sheet. 2 clean sheets in 3 games. You can't really argue that, can you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you say, I think we all predicted Port Vale to do well. So, an away point against what could well be a promotion contender at the end of the season. We may well look back at it and think, yeah, it's good that we didn't lose that one.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's take a short break and then we'll be back with the Leyton Orient preview.
Hi, this is George Tanner. You are listening to the Brunton Bugle.
And we're back for part 2. As we've been saying in every episode this season, our second half of the episode sponsor is the Carlisle United Supporters Club London branch. London branch is open to all Carlisle United fans. They've got members from Cornwall to Dundee and Houston to Singapore. And of course, every part of London and the South East, and even a few in Cumbria as well. They regularly meet up on away trips, as well as arranging many social events and sports games. They do quite a lot of fundraising for the club as well. They'll be providing us with information for away games as part of the preview section of season 2. You can find out more about the London branch at their website, carlisle-londonbranch.org. Okay then, Mike, let's get into the Leyton Orient preview. And first up, I caught up with Brendan and Julian from the LO Down podcast for about the 6th time this calendar year, I think, something like that, because we did quite a few bits with them last season with all the games that were postponed. Just to catch up with them and see how things have gone over the summer, because it seems to be quite an exciting time for Leyton Orient fans after the arrival of Kenny Jackett as manager. So here's the chat I had with them earlier this week. So guys, the O's over the summer made the decision to move away from sort of going for sort of young and inexperienced coaches to go for an experienced head. And are you probably fair to say that you're quite happy with the job that Kenny Jackett's done so far down at Brisbane Road?
Yeah, we're buzzing with Kenny Jackett, to be honest. I mean, we had many calls during the last probably 18 months or so of get an experienced manager and get someone who's managed before, and you kind of brush it off as a fan and think, oh, maybe we can't. There's no real top draw experienced managers out there, and people mention people like Kenny Jackett, and people think, oh, he will never come to us. And then to see him turn up was quite a shock and quite a sign of our ambition for the season to come. And then we've seen over these last few games, we've drawn 2 and won 1, but we just look like a different side completely this season. It's clear he's having an effect.
I actually agree. I think, do you know what? There's always a debate, isn't there? Trying to give a young manager an opportunity, and we've seen it across the EFL where there's opportunity for guys coming in and doing a good job, right? So that it's proven. We look at Cambridge, we look at now Forest Green, and we look at other teams in the league. But
you can even look at ourselves. We brought Beach in, with no managerial experience. So.
Yeah, good point. It's all about us, this one. So we're talking about Orient, now, Jax. Yeah. So that bit. But when the odds were on with Kenny coming through, it's like, oh wow, that's unbelievable. Really, a guy that's just coached in the Championship. He's not been out of the job too long. He's very well versed. I think it comes with a bit of a sort of as a poison chalice as well, doesn't it? You have that type of leadership. So the expectations. Orient fans, we are the worst, as Brendan will tell you. We expect top draw, absolutely. But I think from what we've seen over the last few games, the QPR Cup game where we should have won, the Salford away where we competed, and then sort of the home game with Exeter. It's not the Kenny Jackett team that everyone says it's going to be. It's going to be a big man up front, which we've got a big man up front now. But it's not going to be that long ball. It's going to be a little bit more around sort of put it on the park. And if I've got to be honest, I've been really impressed. But the other side of it, my only concern will be, and continue to be, is that there's a lot of pressure on Kenny because of who he is and what he's trying to achieve, and there's a lot of pressure on the club. And I just really hope we don't sort of capitulate or sort of fall on our swords sort of come Christmas time where it's not quite working. But what we've seen thus far, I'm in the camp of the O's fan. He's sort of singing and dancing. I think we'll do a good job. And Kenny will do a good job with that.
I think it's quite similar to the Clough appointment at Mansfield, isn't it? It's one of those ones that makes the rest of the league sit up and go, wow. they're taking it seriously this year, aren't they? So, and as you mentioned about the football there, I think we've all seen the third goal you guys scored against Exeter and the lovely passing move that led to that, albeit with some fairly slack defending by Exeter, I think it's fair to say, on that goal. There's not been a massive amount of transfer activity over the summer. I think Jackett sort of looked and he's done quite a good coaching job with your existing squad, but he's also brought a few key players in, and I think one that really stands out to me is Darren Pratley. He's a player I've always really admired and really liked. I mean, a level above this, and he looks a real good find for you.
Yeah, Kenny worked with Pratley before at Swansea when he was just a kid, and I doubt he would have dropped down to Orient if Kenny wasn't there. I think it was the kind of signing where you can tell like that's kind of the calibre of manager Kenny is, that he can bring in these players, and he's been excellent so far. Obviously, we lost Joby McAnuff, who was our manager, was our best player, was our captain. So he was kind of that older, experienced pro that did everything. We needed that kind of replacement, and it's a big role for Pratley to fill, but he's done brilliantly so far. And I think playing alongside someone like Hector Cipriano, who's young and gets about the pitch a lot, I think it's a really good partnership. And yeah, I've got no complaints for Pratley so far.
I think Pratley, absolutely what Brendan says there. You know, he is in the mould of Joby McAnuff because his age, his professionalism. He's not a Joby McAnuff by any shape or form. He's a different player altogether. I've said this previously on our podcast, and I think the best signing we made all summer was our keeper. It was retaining him, so he was out of contract, and as pre-season kicked off, there was still rumours that it was still bouncing around, but we managed to get it over the line. So for me, Lawrence Vigouroux has already done a great job in 3 games. He's kept us in games. He's proved his worth. He's saved a penalty already against Exeter. So that for me is a great signing. But you look what we needed last year, and it's very, very much we have looked around and made sure we've got better in. I think Kenny said it many times now, is that he's only going to sign the player who is better than what we've already got, and that's something which I admire, because we do have some talent already there, some talent, younger talent. So let's give them the opportunity. But if there's a better player out there in our budget, and we'll sit and in the Kenny mould, he's bringing it in. So I he has made some really astute signings, and I think long may that continue, and I think they all seem to be buying into the Kenny Jackett philosophy.
Is there any areas you still think you need to strengthen? Because the one thing that, I mean, we did our pre-season or season preview even a few weeks ago, and I think actually at least one of us actually predicted you guys to make the playoffs because we felt that Jackett was the kind of manager who could lift you. But one thing we all did point out was you'd lost 3 key players in attack, in obviously Brophy, Wilkinson and Johnson. Now, obviously, Johnson didn't have the greatest second half of the season, but he still had a good first half of the season. Do you think, Brendan, there's any areas you still need to strengthen potentially?
I think we probably would have agreed with you before the start of the season. I think you look at the 2 strikers we brought in, Aaron Drinan and Harry Smith. Neither of them are prolific goal scorers. No. Neither of them have scored more than 10 goals in a league season before this one. But we've seen Aaron Drinan play every game so far up front, and he's looked excellent. You couldn't have no complaints about what he's done so far. I mean, he's done what we expected of him, was to be a runner, to hold the ball up and kind of play this pressing football that Jackett wants to do. But he's got a couple of goals now. He's got an assist, and he's looking like a real threat. So I think the biggest issue with me with this squad at the minute is the depth is the problem. Yeah. If we get a few injuries, we could be in trouble because, like you say, we lost a lot of players in the summer and we haven't quite replaced as many as we've lost. So if there are injuries, it's going to be a case of kind of throwing in young players who perhaps aren't that experienced. But we've signed a guy called Omatoyo from Norwich, who's going to add a little bit more depth, and hopefully I think we'll see 1 or 2 more that might ease that worry.
A forward line's always going to be a struggle at any club, isn't it? Your club no different to ours. It's just that you want those players to come in. Drinan pre-season was definitely a split in opinion with the fans, but since the season started, do you know what? If he keeps in the vein and keeps the intensity that he's been doing over the last 3 games, I can see a fantastic season for him. Also, a player that's had sort of a bit of a niggly injury is Paul Smith, we got from QPR. Yeah, I like him, and I saw him at Salford, and I thought, aye. But then we go and sort of not surpass that, but also bringing in another player that, in my opinion, is definitely head and shoulders above those around him. So it's old Theo Archibald. So he's on loan to us from Lincoln, and already we're starting to see some good things from him. But then that peppered in with what we already got, I'm quite confident. But as Brendan said, and I think this is every O's fan says the same. If we get a string of injuries like we have done over previous seasons, we're going to be screwed, because we don't have the strength in depth. Because our depth is fairly young, and again, in this league, as you know yourselves, it's a tough old league, and sticking young lads in there, and especially in a February, I won't say a Tuesday night away at Carlisle because we're doing it early in the season, but if you know what I mean, a sort of Tuesday night away on a real muddy pitch, it's going to be a struggle for the O's.
Yeah. When you looked at your fixtures when they came out in June even, you probably look at those opening three fixtures, including the cup game, and think it's a tough start back, because obviously Salford are a much fancied team, QPR from the Championship, and Exeter, I think everybody expects to do well this season. But coming out the other side of it, a decent draw at Salford and QPR taking them to penalties and absolutely battering Exeter at home. You must be pretty chuffed with that. I mean, what could we expect from this Leyton Orient side this weekend?
I think if you're a Carlisle fan and you just hear that reputation of Kenny Jackett, like Julian said earlier, you think long ball, direct, go play a big target man. Now we've got a 6'6" bloke, Harry Smith, who made his debut last week, and he might well start, and we might completely change tact. But so far, it's been kind of possession based, a little bit direct when we need to be, but not direct for the sake of being direct. It's kind of balls into the channels for the wingers, and it's been impressive stuff so far. I think Saturday was probably, for me, the best I've seen us play for years. I think we were talking about in our group chat, it's probably the best since we were kind of under Russell Slade in League One in the 13-14 season, I think, for my money. So we're quietly a little bit getting a bit excited, getting a bit optimistic, but by no means we're going to be taking you guys seriously, because we know you've had a bit of kind of a rebirth again this season under Chris Beach.
No, listen, for me, me and Brendan are very, very much on the same page. I would imagine we slightly change it up a bit on Saturday, but I don't think he's going to make too many changes, because why would you change a winning formula?
Sure.
And the new guys come in. I think we'll see him. Our bit in the ain't been 3 games. The earlier games is the bench looked a bit weak, but now the bench looks a little bit more sort of attractive, and hopefully both Smiths are available Saturday, so that means the bench will be quite sort of strong. So that'll be good, and also Adam Thompson, a long-term injury, hopefully will be back very soon. He's in training again, so that defence is strong. Midfield, we've got some creativity in there, plus we've got some, as I said, Pratley we spoke about. But yeah, Saturday I'm expecting the same as we have against Exeter.
Before we get on to predictions for the game, I'm going to ask you for a quick word on Tristan Abrahams. We obviously signed him in the summer. He started out with you guys, didn't he? Been a bit hit and miss for us so far, I think it's fair to say. He's looked good in games and looked a bit frustrating in others. What was he like with you guys? What were your memories of him?
Yeah, I think hit and miss kind of sums it up a bit. I think on his day he can look really good. He's clearly got like the physical presence and the attributes there to be a really good striker at this level. I think sometimes he just lacks that kind of goal scoring threat. There'll be games, especially we played at the kind of back end of last season, where Joby played him instead of Danny Johnson, and he went missing a little bit, and that was the kind of shame that he never really took his opportunity. But pleased to see he's got another EFL move with you guys, because there's clearly something in there. You just need a manager who's going to be patient with him and kind of coax him out, which hopefully Chris Beach will do now.
For me, exactly the same. I feel he's been played out of position quite a bit at the Orient. And when you go back to him before he left us for Norwich as a youth player, I really liked him. In our trouble couple of years, especially the last year under the previous regime, he dug in and sort of performed, and he really stood out as a young dynamic striker. And I think he's bounced around, hasn't he? He's been sort of to Norwich, that didn't quite work out, and then he's been on loan, and he's been down to Newport, back to us, Newport, back to you. So I think now as he matures and gets a little bit older, I really feel that you'll see a better of him from this season than we saw of him last season. But it's the kiss of death, really, Lee, is that we sponsored him. as soon as we sponsor him, he becomes like the worst player. Like Nick Freeman, we got on loan from Wycombe. We sponsored him, and then he became an absolute load of rubbish for us. So, listen, he'll do really well now. He's got no sponsorships, or I may see. I'll look on your website and see if he's not sponsored and sponsor him again this season. So he actually stays being absolutely useless for the rest of the year. But no, he's a good lad, and I think he's matured a lot, and I think he's got a lot to prove. So I really hope he gets an opportunity at Carlisle.
Well, last night he was hit and miss against Port Vale. He had one moment we did brilliantly to win a throw in on the left wing in attack, and we could have taken a quick one, and he took a foul throw, and it was the most blatant foul throw you've ever seen, and it was so frustrating. But I think that sort of sums it up, because there was other moments where he looked unplayable. So there you go. Okay, then let's have your score predictions for the game, guys. Brendan, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go. I've seen your results, and I think like you're keeping things tight, but you're back to kind of playing at your best. And I think it's going to be a real challenge for us. I think especially it's always tough going to Carlisle just purely because of the miles. So I'll go 1-1. I think it'll be an even game, and I think it'll be a share of the spoils.
Yeah, my thoughts are sort of very similar, a draw. I'm just looking on the weather forecast, and sadly it's not going to snow, so it won't be called off, so it will go ahead. And I think we'll get a good following as well, because everyone likes to go Carlisle away, especially if it's on a Saturday, not on a Tuesday. So that looking forward to that. I think we'll still be busy. I still think we'll be positive in front of the goal, but I think you guys will give us probably the hardest challenge we've had so far this season. So for me, it's a Desmond, it's a 2-2.
Well, I've been to 3 games so far this season, and I've still not seen us score a goal. So it's probably going to be 3-3 now. Knowing that.
I think that's how it goes with us, doesn't it, really? None of us can get this right. So, but no, I do think it'll be an entertaining game for the fans that are in the stadium.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, mate.
Okay, thanks to Brendan and Julian for taking up a bit of their time as well to speak to us. Always good to catch up with them. Hoping to catch up with a couple of the game this weekend, actually. I don't think either Brendan or Julian are actually coming up. I think a couple of the other lads are there, so maybe get a little recording with them before the match, and we'll have that in next week's episode. On to the game itself. Let's look at the officials first, Mike. A familiar name as referee this weekend, isn't it? Bobby Madley. He of the offensive joke that got him sacked as a Premier League referee, didn't it? A couple of years ago. There was a lot of, quite frankly, unfair rumours about him spreading around, weren't they? Prior to actually the story coming out, he disappeared, went over to Norway, because I think he's his wife or girlfriend or something from Norway. I think he went over to there to referee for a bit, and everyone's like, "Why is he moving over? That's a bit of a weird one." And then it emerged that basically he'd been disciplined for a joke he made on Snapchat, something like that. If you Google it, you can find out exactly what happened, basically. But he was always a sort of hit and miss referee for me. He could be a bit arrogant in games when I'd seen him. But actually, I mean, if you get to Premier League level, you're generally not a poor referee most of the time. You're usually quite a good official. I mean,
a lot of like big games that we've had that have called in a Premier League referee, the gulf in quality is clearly.
Oh yeah, I mean, like things like basic things like fitness, they look at a level above. They spot little things, and the way they actually manage the game as well, you notice it. It's very clear just how much better they are than your usual EFL referees, basically. But yeah, I mean, I haven't been able to, because I think he basically last refereed in England in, I think it was the 2017-18 season. And then he just randomly disappeared for those few years over to Norway. I've not been able to find out when he last refereed. I think he refereed his last season for a game, possibly, or he might have been fourth official in a game. But there you go. Head-to-head record, one of the rare ones again that United are actually ahead in terms of head-to-head. We've won 23. There's been 14 draws, and later on have won 21 times. Interestingly, we've played them a lot more than we've played Port Vale, which is a bit of a surprise. I was like, I would have thought we would have played Port Vale more, but Port Vale, I think we've always been imbalanced in terms of divisions between us, whereas with Leyton Orient, especially in recent years, we've generally been in the same division, except when they've been down to the National League. Classic clash for this one. I've gone back 19 years to January 2002. I think this was even before you were watching United, wasn't it? Possibly. Or would you start watching all that then?
I started watching before, but I wasn't going to a lot of games at this point.
This is obviously back into the period when United were well and truly dross, and actually only 2,955 fans turn up for this game. So anyone who complains about low crowds now, they seem to forget that in the early noughties we were struggling to get 3,000 fans for a lot of games. 2,500 was often an average for games round about this time. And they turned up to see the Blues hammer the O's 6-1 at Brunton Park. United were just starting to turn the corner with Roddy Collins after he recalled Ian Stevens from the transfer list. I think he recalled him just before Christmas, and I think he scored a goal against Scunthorpe in a 3-0 win. I think he set up a couple of goals for Richie Foran in that game. And he was the hero in this game alongside his strike partner Richie Foran. They were forming a really good partnership around about this time. And it was kind of a shame that Stevens left at the end of the season, because another season out of him with Foran alongside him, Foran might have really developed into a really... he was a good player, but maybe a different player than he actually ended up being.
Well, I think it was the season after he left us. He scored 19 in a season for Inverness, I think. Richie Foran, I think.
He did well for Inverness, I think. He played more as a winger, I think, for them, though, rather than in fact, a central midfielder quite a lot, too.
And he took a lot of pens.
Did, yeah, that was a fair point. We'll put the YouTube highlights up to this. They're not great quality, because back then they weren't recorded or put on the internet in very good quality, but it was an absolute pudding of a pitch, wasn't it, Mike? When you look back then, you look at the surface we had now, we should be so grateful for the job that David Mitchell does and the money that the club actually does put into the pitch every season. Because it's like night and day between the two of them. United actually took the lead in the second minute when Peter Murphy strode into midfield and played a ball into Ian Stevens, whose touch took him away from the defender and allowed him to fire in off the post. It's a typical Ian Stevens finish, isn't it? Just lovely, quick touch, firing to the bottom corner. United then doubled their lead when Foran's ball into the channel found Stevens, who showed a turn of pace you would not expect from him, ran at the defence and played the ball into Steve Soley, who made no mistake with finishing to the top corner from 12 yards. Stephen grabs his second goal and United's third when Stuart Green blocked a clean to his head. And he actually ended up playing a through ball as a result of that header. Stevens, basically first time, calmly lobbed the keeper from the edge of the box, who'd come out to try and get it. Really lovely finish. Defensive mix-up at the back saw then Foran poleaxed by an O's defender, and it was the Irishman who picked up the ball and slotted home a penalty to make it 4-0. The last goal before the break saw Stevens complete his hat-trick round about the half an hour mark. Murphy was sent away on the left by Brendan McGill. His cross found Steve-O, whose initial header was actually saved, but as he was falling backward, he just about scuffs the ball. It goes over the line like about dribbling pace, basically. And yeah, it was a hat-trick, and that was his third hat-trick under 3 different managers at Carl United. I don't think many players would have that record. Second half was a bit quieter. Wayne Gray grabbed a consolation for the O's, but the 5-goal margin was restored when Foran's persistence saw a free ball from McGill slotted into the back of the net by the pint-sized winger. A couple of interesting other things to note from this game. A young Jabo Abere was playing up front with Wayne Gray in that game, and at the back, Dean Smith was playing centre-back, the Aston Villa manager for Leyton Orient. So, yeah, there you go. In terms of play for both, Dan hasn't been able to send anything over for this because he's on a train over to Newcastle this morning, I think, and the noise was a bit too much. He sent his predictions. They are a bit noisy, but there you go. So yeah, in terms of play for both, there's a long list here, and I'll go through them. He's picked one out for me to discuss. It's not actually as long as the other ones have been. First up, obviously, Tristan Abrahams, we all know, playing for United now, started his career at Leyton Orient and then went to Norwich, went to Newport County, had a loan back at Leyton Orient last season, now he's with the Blues. Nicky Adams, surprised. I didn't realise he played for Leyton Orient, but
no, especially since Northampton was too far away from his family.
Yeah, that's unusual, that, isn't it? There you go. Ben Anik, probably more famous for some of his antics off the pitch than on them. Do not Google those ones, whatever you do, if you're under 18 especially. Stan Bowles, probably the best player to have played for both clubs, you'd imagine, I think, if you're picking on the list here. Sean Brisley, now playing at the back with Aaron Hayden at Wrexham. Jamal Campbell-Rice, to be honest, when I thought about players who played for both clubs before, Jamal Campbell-Rice will have done, definitely. Because he sounds the kind of player who's played for Leyton Orient at some point in his career, doesn't he? But there you go. Derek Clark, one of the Clark brothers, obviously, who played for them. Mervyn Day, he had a spell there, I think towards the start of his career, possibly. Mark Ellis, he had a loan spell there from us, didn't he? Leyton Orient, I seem to remember.
Oh, yeah, when they were in the conference,
I think was he part of the team that got promoted, possibly? I can't remember, but basically, if you want to get promoted from the conference, you take him on loan, don't you, essentially? That's the way it works.
Yeah.
Steve Finney, I think we mentioned him last week with the Swindon one as well. David Galloway, I think he played for us before the Second World War, so that's going back quite a way. Les Gore, Anthony Griffith, again, another one that was mentioned recently. Phil Hadland, he had a very short spell with the Blues. I think just a short spell with Orient. Jabbo, got to mention Jabbo. Jabbo Beere, he's one of them. Michael Liddell, I didn't realise he'd gone down that far. I mean, that's going back quite well, isn't it, Michael Liddell? Was it 2008, 2009 he played for us on loan from Sunderland?
Yeah, he looked all right,
It wasn't the biggest thing to him. I think he grew quite a bit over the years. I think he might play centre-back towards the end of his career. Tom Parks, obviously he was with us a few seasons ago. He was at Orient for a while. Bob Spottiswoode is one I always like to mention because he played in the first ever Carl United team back in 1903, 1904. He played for Clapton Orient, as they were called back then. But he also managed Inter Milan. He was the first ever Englishman to manage Inter Milan. And we're going to do a special episode on him at some point because his story is quite an interesting one because there's a lot of naughtiness in terms of gambling and match fixing back in the day. So very interesting story, that one. And Luke Weaver started his career late in Orient. Went to Sunderland, came to us, and you know what? A lot of people talk about him as a rubbish keeper now. I think a lot of them forget how good he was in his first season with us. He was outstanding. Like, we would have gone down to the conference in the 99-00 season if he hadn't been so good for the games he played. Fortunately, he had his injury issues, and then Ian Atkins just didn't rate him and wanted him out of the club and effectively forced him out in the end. He wasn't having it. The one I didn't mention there is the one that Dan wanted to do as his thing. It's Leon McSweeney. There's one going back, isn't he, Mike? He was an interesting player, wasn't he? So he's an Irish lad. He's a sort of defending midfielder. Started out at Cork City. Didn't actually play a first-team game for them. Then went to Leicester City. Again, didn't actually play a first-team game for Leicester, but then went to Scarborough. He's 4 games there. Went to Hucknall Town in non-league. He did a little bit of a non-league tour, actually. In fact, he basically swapped between Hucknall Town and Hednesford Town. He had a season at Hucknall, 23 games, 4 goals. Then he went to Hednesford, 43 games and 15 goals. Back to Hucknall for 17 games and 3 goals. Then back to Hednesford for 19 games and 4 goals. So he moved between them. Then he went to Ilkeston Town. He had 36 games there and 12 goals. Quite a few goals from midfield, actually, when you look back here.
Yeah, and he was quite defensive-minded as well, wasn't he? If I recall.
And then he went back to Ireland and actually played some games for Cork City, 18 goals in 5 games. Then he got his move to Stockport County, where
18 goals in 5 games. That's
18 games and 5 goals. Sorry, then he came over to England, back over to England. He had probably one of his best 2 spells were at Stockport County and Hartlepool over like a few seasons, where he played 47 games for the Hatters and scored 5. He played 77 for Hartlepool and scored 3. Then he had his spell at Leyton Orient with 61 games. He didn't score any goals there, so this is probably the point where he starts to become a bit more of a defensive player, you'd imagine. Came to United for, I think, basically the second half of the 2013-14 season when we got relegated. He played his 8 games. Left the club.
I think he was there earlier in the season because I think there was that away game at Shrewsbury.
Was that early in the season? I thought it was later in the season. So I can't remember.
I thought it was earlier. And I know that he was at fault for one of the goals.
I think it was the one at the end, wasn't it, where we took the lead through Ryan Hanlon and then the kickoff. They humped it forward and he missed a header or something and they got in. So I think he played mostly right back a lot for us, didn't he? In his time with us.
Yeah, he did.
And then he went to Northampton, had his 18 games there, and he's never played since. So not sure exactly where he's gone now. It looks like he basically, when you look actually his Wikipedia page, he played a lot in when he was playing those non-league games. He was actually, I think he was at Loughborough University or someone like that. I think essentially, so he's basically playing for university teams, and that's what he was doing essentially at that time. So these days, no idea what he's doing. There's no evidence to show he's up to anything. So there you go. So that's Liam McSweeney. Let's move on to the Leyton Orient game then quickly, Mike. Let's have a quick run through this. Made steady progress since returning to the EFL 2 seasons ago with 17th and 11th place finish. Obviously, the 17th place was the season that was curtailed early. They're quite an ambitious club. Their chairman, I think, is the CEO of Dunkin' Donuts in America. They're quite a fascinating one.
Did you know that their little slogan is "America runs on Dunkin'," which no shit if you've been to
it
America.
Does, doesn't it? There you go. They sacked Ross Embleton, who's got a bit of a sort of club stalwart halfway through last season, basically. He'd taken over from Carl Fletcher. He'd done a good job steadying them, but I think they wanted to progress further. Joby McAnuff did the job on a caretaker basis, but they opted not to keep him on at the end of the season. He retired as a player as well, and they brought in an experienced coach over the summer. That coach, of course, is Kenny Jackett. And it's fair to say, I mean, he's alongside Nigel Clough, probably the standout managerial appointment at this level over the last couple of seasons, isn't he? He's one that you straight away go, wow, he's a good coach, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, probably the most proven manager in the league. In terms of sort of promotions and stuff, because Clough hasn't done a great deal in terms of promotions, has he? He's done a good job at various clubs, but Jackett certainly has probably more promotions on his CV. But as them lads touched on, he's sort of famous for just getting results, sort of the old-fashioned way, but he seems to actually be sort of adapting and playing a bit of football.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, anyone who saw their game against Exeter and saw the goals from it, the third goal they scored is an absolute beauty.
Oh my God, yes.
I mean, the Exeter defending is pretty atrocious, to be fair. They do not look like... I mean, I'm quite glad now that I was one of the few... I don't know if you did, but in the pre-season prediction, I didn't predict them to finish in the promotion places at all. I didn't even know even the playoff.
No,
maybe we were right, because all the other people were predicting them, so there you go. Not being too busy this summer, 7 new faces arrived, but they've also promoted 5 players from their youth squad. The star man for me, it's got to be Darren Prattley. I mean, bags of experience at a higher level than this, and as the lads touched on in the chat there, probably the only reason he's come to Orient is Kenny Jackett, because he's worked with him before when he was at Swansea. That's probably the reason, but he's going to be their captain this season, and I think he's going to be the most experienced player in their squad, so he'll be vital to them doing well. Other men I've picked out here, Omar Beckles has started the season really well. He's played at League 1 and League 2 level over the last 4 or 5 seasons and scored a couple of goals in the first couple of games. Keeping keeper Lawrence Vigoureau as well, as they mentioned that in the chat. Absolutely vital, because he's probably one of the best keepers in the division last year. And forward Harry Smith, I mean, he's not going to score too many goals for them probably, but as a target man, he'll probably be vital to how they play, even if they're keeping the ball a bit more. The ball does stick to him, and he plays around him, can then pick up pieces. So there you go.
Yeah, definitely 6'5".
He's
I think
absolutely
he is
massive. He's a unit basically, so he's going to be a real challenge for Ron McDonald this weekend. I think it's fair to say. And like I said, they started the season really well. You know, opening day draw at Salford. I don't think you'd argue that. Pushing QPR to penalties in the cup, and they probably could have won that game by all accounts. And then absolutely battering Exeter at the weekend. And they're lucky that their game against Harrogate obviously was called off because of the coronavirus issues at Harrogate. So they've had a week off.
So they've had a full week.
But then United could potentially argue that we've got the fitness levels because our players have played that extra game, haven't they? So there you go.
But as well, you touching on the sort of games that they've had. I mean, their last pre-season game, which is sort of the one where you're going all at it and doing your best team. They beat Gillingham 2-0, who were a good League One team. So, they're certainly... I don't think any of us really predicted them to.
I think
be
one
in
of
the
us.
playoffs,
I can't remember who. I'm sure someone picked them as the wild card thing they made the play. It might have even been you. You know, I think you might have forgot you there.
No, I did Stevenage as my wild card.
Maybe I put Orient in the playoffs based on Kenny Jackett, but there you go. So in terms of United, we'll just quickly gloss over this, Mike. Clough's now fit. Do you bring him into the starting 11 for this game?
Depends how fit, doesn't it? And, you know, like I say, a lot of the lads who play in his sort of position haven't warranted being dropped, really. So, yeah, depends how fit. I mean, maybe sort of up it from what we gave him at Port Vale and give him a half. You know, like bring him on at half time or something, or even start him and then take him off.
It's one of those ones. Do you change formation to fit him in? Go to your 4-2-3-1 and have him play just behind his striker. Like maybe give Abrahams a chance to actually play as that main striker in the game rather than sort of switching him around between the wings a lot. So maybe do you drop Alessandro maybe, and then you'd have to. It's difficult, isn't it? Because like I said, who do you drop at the moment? The midfield are doing pretty well. As harsh as it sounds, I'd maybe probably drop Mellish because he wasn't the greatest against Port Vale, and I think he did well in the first couple of games. But I don't know. It's a tough one.
But he's one of them, Mellish. You know, he might not be in great form, but he'll just get into the right place at the right time. And, you know, he might not be having a good game even. And then in the 80th minute, he'll just make one of them runs that'll just split a defence in half.
So I think that sums up the preview bit. So let's get on to the predictions, Mike. First up, we'll do Dan. So Dan sent me this morning. This is what his predictions are. It might be noisy because he was on a train when he recorded it. So let's see what it sounds like.
Apologies for the noise, everyone, while recording this. I'm just on a train to Newcastle this morning. But I'm going to go for a 3-2 win for Carlisle. Proper ding-dong of a match. And I'll go for goals for Abrahams, Dickinson and Riley.
There you go. That's Dan's prediction. He didn't give me the attendance. I'll get him to send me that, and I'll make sure we make a note of what he wants the attendance to be. Mike, what's yours?
I'm going to go for 1-0 to the Blues, getting another clean sheet. And I'll go for Joe Riley to get our goal. And at attendance, I'll go for a nice round 5,000.
That's tactical, I think. For mine, I'm going to go for well, to be honest, when I did it with the lads on the Low Down podcast, on their podcast, I said a 2-1 win, so I'll stick with that. 2-1 win. Abrahams will get one of the goals, and Clough will get a goal coming off the bench. I think he'll score a goal late on. 2-1 win, and attendance of 4,427. That's my prediction, very exact. Like I said, we'll get Dan's prediction as well.
Although technically, all you had to do was say 49999,
and
you could have been one of them.
I won't tell Dan what you've said basically when I ask him. So there you go. Right, okay. X-Files is not a massive amount to cover here, to be honest, Mike. We were hoping we'd get a bit more, but there you go. Goals. Zanzala scored for Barrow, didn't he? Have you seen the goal? It's a great little goal, to be fair. I've got a feeling it's going to be good for them. It's so annoying. But there you go.
I know.
He started well for them. By all accounts, they've been impressed. You can't stop a good man, can you? Carl Stockton scoring again. Like I said, I'd have him back at Carl now. It's mad. I wouldn't, if you'd asked me start of last season, I said not a chance in hell we'd ever have him back at Carlisle, but yeah.
Well, it's one of them because, people are saying, he suddenly sort of turned it round all of a sudden. But he was a very good player before us, and he's a very good player after us. It was literally just with us that seemingly that
fit into the system
he wasn't really good.
Curl wanted him to fit into, but there you go.
But to be fair, at the same time, I've never seen a player come off a pitch with shorts as clean as his week in and week out. Like, he just wasn't putting in the graft, was
it?
Didn't
work. I'll tell you, man, who was putting in the graft the other night, Andy Cook. He got a hat-trick for Barrow in the first... Not Barrow, sorry. For Bradford in the first half, didn't he, of their game against Stevenage? Really, really impressive, that from Cookie. He apparently got a standing ovation, even from the press box was standing up and applauding him off when he got subbed. And Ashley Ellison, he got a goal as well the other night. I think, was it Crawley beat Salford, I think, didn't they? Quite impressive. Salford are not having a good start to the season, are they?
Oh, God, who predicted them to win the league?
Well, you picked them to win the league. I had them top 3, but Dan had them top 3, so looks like we've cursed them again. Not that I'm grumbling. Some interesting developments there at Salford, though, because it looks like they're going to move next season to the AG Bell Stadium, the Rugby League one that's right near the Trafford Centre. I mean, I've had a look. It's a pain in the arse to get to. I was looking in terms of public transport. The tram to the Trafford Centre doesn't get you anywhere near. It's still about half an hour walk from there. There you go. Only other little bit of news we've got here. Clinton Hill's left his role as assistant manager at Bristol Rovers for family reasons, isn't it? I think it was described. No further details. We don't know what's happened there. It might be a case of he's just finding it difficult being that far away because he lives in the Wirral, doesn't he? I think because we've both seen him travelling on the train to Carlisle games from Liverpool in the past. So now good luck to Clint. Obviously, in whatever role he goes for next. He was a great little player for us. So there you go. And that's it, Mike. That's it for today's episode. Nicely rounded up. We've obviously dropped the clips in and stuff, and hope people enjoy those bits. We'll try and do a few more of those. It was quite a long one from the Port Vale game, but hopefully I'll be able to do the next one and trim it a little bit better. What we might do, we might almost use that as the match review bits in future. Basically, whenever I do record them, because I think they're quite good. We'll do a proper one. What we'll do is we'll do a proper episode for when we go to Sutton, won't we? We'll record lots of audio and go down on the day. So we booked our trains for that. Cost us an absolute fortune because Liverpool are playing Brentford that weekend and Man City are playing against Chelsea, so we can't even go via Manchester to make it cheaper. Sod's law. There you go. So thank you once again to our sponsors, the London branch, for sponsoring the second half of the show. Reminder everyone, you can subscribe to the podcast via all good podcast apps. Just search for the Brunton Bugle, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Acast, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. We're on all the good podcast apps. If we're not on there, do let us know because we can actually try and arrange to make sure we are on there if it's one that you use for all your other podcasts. And obviously follow us on social media at Brunton Bugle on Twitter, search for Brunton Bugle on Facebook, and we're all on the Be Just and Fair Not Facebook group, aren't we, as well? And we also post on the Cumbrians.net message board. In terms of upcoming episodes, we'll be doing a preview for the Hartlepool game next week, along with some sort of review of the Leyton Orient game as well. And then obviously the week after that, we'll be doing an episode with you, Mike, review the Hartlepool game because you're going to it. I'm not, so...
Yeah.
I know, it's disgraceful, isn't it? Disgraceful. That's the plan for that game. And we'll be getting Dan's CUFC 11 episode out early next week as well, so you've got an extra bonus special episode too. Mike, you're off to go and order your Hartlepool ticket, aren't you? So enjoy your trip to the Northeast next week. Thanks everyone for listening, and up the Blues.
Up the Blues.